Hello, and welcome to the Golden Sports Report, episode 73. I'm Andy,
I'm Chris.
I'm Dylan.
I'm Sean.
and today we are going to talk about the NHL awards ceremony and preview the awards and who we think is going to win them. And we're going to scout goalies for our mock draft. That's our next episode, and maybe we'll talk about soccer, maybe not. We want to, but we'll see if we have a monster show in the first place. I know Sean really wants to, though, so we're going to try and fit it in. Um, all right. So, first, we're going to do awards, obviously. And we will leave MVP for last because I think that's the most important. We'll go with Coach of the Year first. We'll go from the bottom of the list to the top of the list, from least important to most important. Um, the three coaches up for nomination are Patrick Waugh of Colorado, Mike Babcock of Detroit, and John Cooper of, I believe, Tampa Bay. And Dylan, I'll let you go first.
All right, so Coach of the Year. I think, in my mind, there's one guy who stands out to me. The other guys, of course, obviously did great, but I think Patrick Waugh, anyway, of the Colorado Avalanche, he just did a really great job. I mean, you make the argument that they have the talent with their players to do that well, but they had the first overall pick, and they took McKinnon. Great choice, and then they went to the playoffs. They didn't do that well in the playoffs, unfortunately for them, but they still, in my opinion, did well enough in the regular season to garner the Coach of the Year award. I mean, grabbing the second seed in the entire Western Conference. So for me, it's got to be Patrick Waugh.
One vote for Waugh. Chris, who do you have at Coach of the Year?
Um, I'm gonna have to agree with Dylan. Detroit always seems to make the playoffs. Tampa Bay, you could say, Stamkos gone. They didn't really have like a bunch of good guys. They had a bunch of good rookies, I guess. And they Cooper did all right there. But I'm gonna say Patrick Waugh because that team has been at the bottom of the barrel for the last 3 or 4 years. And then sure these young guys have a bunch of talent, but you have to get these young guys to play. A lot of times, young kids just don't want to play a lot, and he was able to coach them up. Semyon Varlamov, who will be talked about later, uh, you know, that just happened to break one of Patrick Waugh's records this year under him. So I'd vote Patrick Waugh as the coach of the year.
Two votes for Waugh. Sean, who do you have?
It's going to be 3 votes for Waugh. He did just an excellent job with all the rookies that he's had. I don't know. He was born. Well, I shouldn't say born, but I don't know. He came back to Colorado where he left off, and he's taking him to the right path. So yeah, simple and sweet.
Yeah, in my opinion, I have to agree with all of you in saying Patrick Waugh is Coach of the Year. Going from last, or second last, getting the first pick in the draft, to, as Dylan said, being second in the Western Conference is a crazy accomplishment, even with all that talent. Um, I wanted the Sabres to pick him up instead of Rolston. Like, it was a big deal. I wanted Waugh really bad, and a lot of people wanted Rolston, and you saw that turned out. Um, give a little bit of love to Babcock and Cooper. Babcock got in the playoffs with a team that lost its two best players and probably the heart and soul of their hockey team in Datsuk and Zetterberg, and had the kid Gustav Nyquist put the team on his back in the last 2 months of the season. And Babcock just, I don't know, 20 years in a row, that's an accomplishment, but it's no different than what they usually do. And Cooper, he did it without Stamkos. He had St. Louis, and Tyler Johnson, Pallotta, and Killorn. Those three young kids did really well. We'll talk about Johnson and Palat later. But yeah. So those two guys definitely need some consideration. But Waugh definitely won this award. With the next award we're going to cover is the Selke Award, which is given to the best two-way forward in the league. And the three nominees are Patrice Bergeron of Boston, Anze Kopitar of the Cup-winning Kings, and Jonathan Toews of Chicago. And Chris, you can go first on the Selke.
Okay, I don't know. I want to say John Tays because he's one of my favorite players in the league. But I gotta go with Patrice Bergeron here, even though I seriously hate Boston so much. But he led the NHL in faceoff wins, and he had a pretty good year point wise, and then he had a plus 38 rating. Which that means he's good offensively and defensively. Logged a lot of ice time, and he was one of the main reasons that Boston won. They won the conference, right? Pretty sure they won the conference. Yeah. He's him, and someone we'll talk about later. For the Norris Trophy are the main reasons that Boston won that conference. So, Patrice Bergeron would be my vote.
Patrice, going against his roots in hating Boston. Sean, who do you have for best two-way forward of the year?
Without a doubt, Teos. I don't know. I just always see him coming back with the puck and playing defense. He's always one not to hide away from the puck. He fights for every possession, and to me, I don't see Kopitar doing that much effort, or Bergeron, although Bergeron is a close second. Just Teos being the captain, obviously he has to set a role, and he's always done that. So, John Teos.
Teos, huh? Sure.
And they're chirping. This is only the beginning. If we get to soccer talk with swearing aloud, it'll be funny. Dylan, who do you have for Selke?
I came into this very confident that I was going to say John Toews, but upon looking at the stats from last season, I think yeah, I want to say Toews, but I think it's going to be Bergeron. I think there's a good chance. I don't know. I think Kopitar and Toews are close, but I think Bergeron's slightly above. He didn't have as many points as the other two guys, but this is for a two-way defenseman. Chris mentioned he had the most face-off wins. He had about 130 more face-off wins than John Toews, and it's like 240 more than Kopitar. Plus 38, he had 57 blocked shots as opposed to Kopitar's 44 and Taves' 20. And John Taves did miss a couple of games there at the end, but I don't think he missed enough to make up that much. And he was second in hits out of the three nominees, with Kopitar first and Taves last. So overall, I think I have to go with Bergeron for this one.
Yeah, Patrice has won it before, I believe, and it's kind of interesting. Over the last 10 years, you've seen Pavel Datsyuk dominate the award, and then you see Bergeron come up, and I think he took it from Datsyuk. And Taves is with Bergeron every year as finalists for this award, and it just the stats show it all. Patrice Bergeron is relied on more in the faceoff dot. He hits more than Taves. He blocks more shots than Taves. And sure, he doesn't score as many goals, but this is the two-way forward. The forward that's relied on the most in both ends of the ice. He's relied on to not only score, but keep the other team from scoring. And a plus 38, like I've said before, a high plus minus is not coincidence. It is not bad luck or good luck. With the assumption that everybody gets the same luck, Bergeron is just better than everyone else. No one's more lucky than anybody else. It may seem that way, but it's not. And although he's on Boston, he is a stud of a player, and you only hope that you can get a player like him on your team, a player that plays hurt all the time, and is still willing to go down to block the shot when he's hurt. We saw that last season in the Cup Finals against Chicago when he played in Game 6 or Game 7. I think it was Game 6 with a punctured lung, separated shoulder, and broken ribs. And he's just, I don't know, he is a very, very good player. So yeah, Bergeron's mine as well. Sean, you can go first on the Rookie of the Year, the Calder Cup Trophy. It is between Tyler Johnson of Tampa Bay, Andre Palat of Tampa Bay, and this guy named Nathan MacKinnon from Colorado.
I'm gonna have to say McKinnon, just because of his playoff run and just how he just showed up out of nowhere. Obviously, he did something after the Olympics. I believe he just started turning it on. He was just a beast during the playoffs. Helped him a lot. And to be honest, I've heard of Johnson, but not really much of Palat. I think that's how you say his name. But just McKinnon, I don't know, he's just more strong and offensively aware of where he is all the time, and Johnson would be a close second for me at least. So
Surprised it was even considered close. I partially agree, but it's not my turn. Dylan?
Okay, for Rookie of the Year, I'm also going to have to go Nathan MacKinnon. He came in for Colorado and he did fantastic. 63 points in 82 games. I'm sorry. I was surprised to see that Palat had 59 points in 81 games, which was a lot closer than I thought any of the other guys had been. And his plus minus he was a plus 32, as opposed to McKinnon's plus 20. However, I'm still going with McKinnon. I think that's where my vote would go if I was one of the voters. I think that's where a majority of the votes will go. And it seems to me that like these guys, like you could make the case for them being a close second, sort of. But I don't think anybody will be a close second. I think McKinnon's just gonna take it with ease. He had a phenomenal year. Showed why he was the number 1 overall pick.
That's what the Sabres have to do. Lose and get the first overall pick. Chris, who do you choose for the cup?
Well, rookie of the year, the obvious choice is McKinnon. Insane year. I'm not going to say everything that these guys just said. They're absolutely right. McKinnon is going to win this. He would get my vote, but the other guys deserve some, if not more, praise for how they perform. If I'm not mistaken, Andre Palat wasn't drafted at all, and Tyler Johnson was a later round pick. Correct?
Other way around, but correct.
Other way around, exactly. And they performed similar. They were close to a number 1 overall pick. Now, they performed way above anyone even had any clue. No one knew who these guys were except for Tampa Bay. And they just brought them in. They were like, you know what? Screw your number 1 overall pick. We got 2 guys that are almost just as good. So, you got to consider that. Nathan McKinnon performed. Obviously, he performed higher than a lot of people probably expected. Because, just because you're first overall pick doesn't mean you're coming in and dominate the way that he did. But still, those other 2 guys, they deserve some praise. But McKinnon will get the vote this year.
I pretty much feel the same exact way Chris does. It Palat and Johnson some credit for being players that were playing on this Tampa Bay team over Jonathan Drouin, for example. Jonathan Drouin, he was a 3rd overall pick, but they were like, no, you stay in juniors. We're going to play Tyler Johnson and Andre Palat. And you know what? This team lost Steven Stamkos. We've already went over this before, but they lost Steven Stamkos. They traded away Martin St. Louis. Sure, they got Ryan Callahan back in that deal. But they trusted Tyler Johnson and Andre Palat as 2 of the key players for this team, and they are 2 of the key players for the long term for this team. Colorado has Landeskog, Duchesne, and McKinnon. Tampa Bay, they're like, well, we have Stamkos, Drouin, and Johnson and Palat. They may not be as flashy as your guys. Well, actually, obviously Stamkos is more flashy than the other 3, but they may not be as deep in terms of that high skill level, but they produce pretty much the same. And I didn't know Palat was so close to McKinnon in points. And he's better in plus minus, which makes me want to say that Palat kind of deserves this award more than McKinnon does. And it's a popularity contest for McKinnon to get the award. But that's just my opinion. I think it also splits the vote because there are 2 Tampa Bay players on there. So yeah, Dylan, you can go first on the Vezina goalie of the year. It is between Ben Bishop of Tampa, Tuukka Rask of Boston, and Semyon Varlamov of Colorado.
All right, so all 3 obviously had great years. That's why we're talking about them right now. But I have to go with Tuukka Rask. I understand the argument that of the 3 he played on the best defensive team, and I know he made 5 less starts than both Bishop and Varlamov and had 5 less wins than Varlamov and 1 less than Bishop, but a .930 save percentage and a 2.04 goals against. That gives him the award, in my opinion, and that would give him my vote, I think the save percentage 930, that's great. I know Varlamov had a 927, so he wasn't that far behind, and Bishop had a 924, so it's close. But a 2.04 goals against is incredible, and compared to 2.23 and a 2.41. I think 2.04 goals against is going to be the main. I think it's the main reason, but that combined with whatever else he did, and as well as Boston did, the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, in the President's Trophy winners, so number one in the entire league, and Tuukka Rask was a really big part of that. So Tuukka Rask gets it, in my opinion.
Vote for Rask. Chris, who is your goalie of the year?
Well, I think you already know who I want. I told you. I think, yeah, Tuukka Rask has the best, save percentage stats, and he's in the top 5 of all of those stats, I do believe, or something like that. So, he would, just like looking at it, he deserves it more, you would think. But he's also got such a great team around him. Their defense is insane. Their offense is really good in the defensive zone. So that definitely helps. Um, I think Ben Bishop deserves this the most. Um, he came back and he started. This is his first year starting, and he dominated. He was good. Okay, he was the reason Tampa Bay made the playoffs. Sure, Palat and Johnson had good rookie years, but anyone you can score. Okay, you can score all you want, but if you don't have a goalie stopping pucks from going in your own net, you're not going to win games. So, Ben Bishop. Oh, Ben. Okay. Yeah, Ben Bishop deserves this award. He broke a couple records for Tampa Bay goalies, um, and he just had a great year. Varlamov, he beat Patrick Waugh's 40 wins in one season record with 41. So I could see why he's being acknowledged as one of them. But my vote goes to Bishop here.
And a vote for Bishop. Sean, who do you have for goalie of the year?
All right. Just with Rask, he's all statistics, and I understand why Dylan picked him. He's a great goalie, but as Chris said, what would he be like without the team around him? Personally, I really don't think he would be that great. Because honestly, that defense opens up all the shots, so he sees 95 or more percent of shots ever taken. Varlamov, he was great, honestly. But just what he did in the playoffs, and I don't know, that just kind of took it away. Bishop, on the other hand, not the greatest of teams. Yes, they have all the rookies that made it to the whatever you want to call it, the award ceremony, and he, like Chris said, he was the one that brought them to the playoffs. Even without Steven Stamkos, he basically got them all the wins when he was gone. And personally, I don't think any of the other goalies would be able to do that. Say, take away McKinnon and Barry. Look what happened with Barry. Once he left, Varlamov kind of went downhill. Say you take away Chara from Boston, that big guy that gets all the players out of the way, a lot more goals would happen. But Bishop just held strong and just excelled. So Bishop would be my vote.
And Rask will only get one. Now, the reason I'm going to say Rask is not getting the award is, all these stats, Tim Thomas did the same thing before he got there. I almost want to say it's almost like a system. Sure, there can be two good goalies back to back, I understand that, but it's almost like it's a system in which the goalie can flourish better. Whereas Bishop and Varlamov are the first goalies on their team in like the last decade to do well. Like, I want to say Bishop, before Bishop got there, they had Dwayne Rollison. We're going to say Dwayne Rollison did well one time, but Dwayne Rollison is he's garbage. Colorado, they had Ryan Elliott and they had Craig Anderson. And it's like, well, but it's not like Tim Thomas before Tuukka Rask got there, who was a Vezina winner, goalie of the year winner. Rask is one, I believe he's won goalie of the year. But I want to say Bishop deserves this award just because the answer to the problems of Tampa Bay, the problem has always been goaltending, and they thought they could fix it by getting Lindback as their backup, and Lindback was garbage. And it showed how important Bishop was to the team when Lindback got in net. That was the same hockey. Actually, that was a better hockey team in the playoffs than it was when Bishop manned it during the regular season. Because they had Stamkos during the playoffs. That was a better hockey team in the playoffs than they had when Bishop was in net. And Lindback did worse. So, in my opinion, Bishop deserves the award. But Rask is probably going to win it because of the popularity contest. Yeah. So, that's the thing. Our second to last trophy is the Norris Trophy, Defenseman of the Year. The finalists are Zdeno Chara of Boston, Duncan Keith of Chicago, and Shea Weber of Nashville. Chris, you're first.
First, all right. These three are all pretty deserving of this award this year. They all did very well. Shea Weber, he kicked ass in Nashville. Nashville has a terrible team. We talked about them the other day, and we just talked about how terrible Nashville is. Just absolutely garbage. So, but Shea Weber had a good year. He posted the most points defenseman has had, I think, ever in Nashville. Could be wrong. He led the NHL all defensemen in goals with 23 or 24, and he had a bunch of assists. So, and he played well, but I'm not going to give it to. My vote does not go to Shea Weber. My vote would probably be. You know what? No, I convinced myself. Shea Weber. I was going to say Chara, but there's so many other great players on Boston. Chara had a great year. He played amazing, but there's so many other good players on Boston's team that Chara didn't have to do everything. Duncan Keith, he's a great offensive defenseman, and he's okay on the defense. He had a pretty good year, but Shea Weber all the way, maybe. Yeah, Shea Weber.
See how close that was. He had to change his mind. Sean, who do you have for Defenseman of the Year?
Mine will be a little bit easier. Shea Weber. I'm not gonna do all the statistics like Chris said. That's what my vote would be, but I just have a feeling because everyone loves Boston, so it's probably gonna be Chara, which pisses me off because he's such a goon and he's so bad. And Keith, I don't know. I just think he's only good with Seabrook. I think that was his lineman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure. Um, just I don't know. It's either gonna be between Chara or Keith. I really don't think that Weber is gonna be like nominated just because of how his team actually did during the whole season, which really makes me mad and wishes that it would be like the fan vote, but I don't know.
If
Bothers
I'm not if I'm not mistaken, Shea Weber has been put up 3 or 4 other times and came second place twice, or
me. Really?
maybe 3 times. Yeah,
Oh, never mind.
he's like Shea Weber always gets second place, and it
To
sucks.
Charo, right?
I don't know. Usually it might have been Chara. But
Still bothers me. I hate Charo. He's my most hated player ever. I would buy a million phones just to vote no for him. That's how much I hate him.
I'm impressed.
Dylan, who do you have for a defenseman of the year?
Okay, well, for the Norris, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be best all-around defenseman, but to me it seems like they just give the award to the best offensive defenseman. And I've said it for like the entire year. I think Duncan Keith's gonna get it. 61 points plus 22. He was on a great team. Obviously, Chicago is very good. They did very well. He I think he did slow down at one point for a little bit, but I think he was a big part of Chicago providing for Chicago's offense, where they scored more goals than any other team in the league this season. And I think that he's gonna go home with the Norris Trophy on when's the award show? Tuesday. Tuesday. Let's say Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it's before our next show. Um, in my opinion, the Norris should go to Weber. Like, the Rookie of the Year award kind of deserves to be in the hands of Palat instead of McKinnon. But it's going to go to Duncan Keith because what Dylan said, that it always goes to the defenseman that has the best offensive numbers. But keep in mind, don't be surprised if Shea Weber wins even under that mantra, that criteria, because he had the most goals. So it's also a thing that he may have actually been the best offensive defenseman. He may not have the most points, but he put more pucks in the net, and I think he played more minutes. I'm sure he did. And yeah, I think Ryan Suter should be up for this award. Guy plays 30 minutes a night. But Chara always is in there. I don't know. He's real physical, but that's not hard for him because he should be physical. If he wasn't physical, he'd be a waste. He'd be like Tyler Myers. Ha ha ha. We have one of those. We have one of those big tall wastes. So that's the thing. All right. So the MVP, the Hart Trophy of the year, as expected, Sidney Crosby is on the list. Last year's Hart Trophy winner, Claude Giroux, is on there. And Ryan Getzlaf of Anaheim is a nominee. I'm going to let Chris go first because he isn't, who wants to go first? So I'll let him go first.
I'll go first, doesn't matter. Um, Crosby, 104 points this season, 38, 36 goals, 68 assists, something like that. Great year, but that's something you kind of you kind of expect out of the best player in the league, best offensive player in the league. I don't know. Yeah, he obviously his team probably wouldn't have been as good without him, but Evgeny Malkin has stepped into that role before without Sidney Crosby there. So they didn't really need Crosby to do that great in order to be successful. And then you could see in the playoffs how shitty Crosby is and how much that team just I don't know. Anyways, um, who's the other guy? Getzlaf. Getzlaf. Sorry, Sean. You got your guy. Getzlaf. Great year. 36 goals or something like that. I don't remember. Um, Great year. Led the Ducks to the Western Conference. Um, they just had a good year. But I think Claude Giroux should get back-to-back Hart Memorial trophies here. Through the first 5 games, Claude Giroux went scoreless. And then, hold on, let me pull up the stat here so I know for sure. Anyway, so through the first 5 games, Claude Giroux went completely scoreless. And then after that, and he didn't have a single goal through the first 16 games. And let me just pull up the stat here so I'm not saying this one wrong because I want to make sure I get this one right. Okay, so in his last 67 outings of the year, he had 28 goals and 51 assists for where did that go? Am I blind now? For 79 points. And his team was garbage in the beginning of the year when he wasn't performing. And then he decided, you know what? Enough of this shit. I'm gonna be like taking charge now and bring my team to the playoffs. And he's the only one on that team who was able to perform last year. Claude Giroux is my hope.
I was surprised by him picking Claude Giroux. He was leading up, and they said Claude Giroux, and I was like, oh, Sean, who do you have for the MVP of the year? Now, don't be surprised. He's probably gonna pick Crosby. He likes those kind of players. He wishes Anaheim was made up of them. Go ahead. Who's your MVP?
Right, Crosby. Yeah, douchebag. Obviously not Crosby. I don't know. He's just hyped up. He doesn't do any defensive work at all. He gives up on a play really easily. So I really don't think he's MVP worthy. Giroux, yes, he's good. Yes, he has a crappy team, but I don't know. I'm gonna sound really biased, but obviously my pick is Getzlaf. Um, he, he's just a great captain with all the young kids on his team. Obviously, that's not really. Well, I guess it would be considered somewhat of an MVP, but just his offensive awareness and his defensive awareness is all he needs. He's a great He has a great shot. He sees the ice well. His passes are spot on, and he steps in when his players are getting pushed around. And he can take a puck to the face like a champ. Um, Crosby, he'll be out for a good season with a concussion. Drew, I don't want to say anything bad about him. He's kind of a hard ass too. But I don't know. Just Getzlav, just Anaheim for life.
I had a good chance to chirp soccer there. A really, really, really good chance, and I chose not to.
Just wait your turn. It'll come.
Dylan, who do you have at MVP?
Well, wow. Well, first I'm going to start off with a fun fact. Last year's Hart Trophy winner was Alex Ovechkin. Runners up were Crosby and Tavares. Now on to my prediction. I expected I know we were saving the most important for it last, but I anticipated this being almost unanimous for Sidney Crosby. I'm going with Sidney Crosby because he's the most valuable player. He 104 points, 17 more than anybody else. Clearly the best offensive player in the NHL. I don't know what else to say. Giroux is very good. He was very important to Philly. Um, Getzlaff, very good also. He's a great player. Is he going to win the MVP? I don't think so. Crosby, the best player in the league. I know you can make the argument, oh, he has Evgeny Malkin with him, and he was terrible during the playoffs. He had 9 points in 13 games in the playoffs, and that team fell apart. Because Crosby was a little bit less than a point per game, that team just sort of collapsed there in the second round. But I think it's Crosby. He may miss a whole year with a concussion, but a concussion's a very serious injury. So I
Just
think it's Crosby. I think it's easily Crosby. I don't think there's an argument for the other two. That's my opinion.
I have a question. Did he score a goal in the playoffs this year?
Yes, I believe so. I'm pulling
I don't
up
think
his
he
page right
did.
now.
He scored one.
He had one.
He
Goal,
Oh,
scored.
8 assists.
That's less
Dylan,
than our boy
I
Rick
have a question.
Nash.
Hmm?
I have a question. Do you think Sidney Crosby was meant for a sport that was a little more, a little less contact? Maybe they kick a ball around and they get injured often.
Fake injured.
I know what you're getting at, Andy, but no, he's not meant for another sport because he's clearly the best at the sport he's in. So
you mean frisbee golf?
Hey, that's what it looks like is frisbee golf. Um, so Crosby, best offensive player, not a good defensive player, like Sean said. Now, without the bias, I can say I like Getzlaff the most as a player out of the three. I do. I like him most as a player. I like players that play offense and defense, and they play rough and all that. But Giroux won't win the award, but MVP, most valuable player to your team. Getzlaff had Perry, and Crosby, Malkin was out, but there's still Kunitz and Neal there. And although he kind of showed that Kunitz is nothing without Crosby, James Neal is still respectable, and Chris Kunitz is still respectable. Chris Letang was there for a while, and he got hurt. Marc-Andre Fleury during the regular season's a great goalie, but if you look at the Philly Flyers, their team is not very good. Like Wayne Simmons is a respectable hockey player, but he's not going to put up 30 goals a year like Neil or Kunitz, or 50 goals like Perry. Hartnell kind of did that one time. He's not a regular player like that. Defensively, Philly does not have as good of players as Anaheim and Pittsburgh. In net, they are a lot worse than Anaheim and Pittsburgh. But you know what? All three of them made the playoffs. And Giroux is more valuable to his team than the other two to theirs. And if you're going to say who is the most valuable player, it's Claude Giroux. And I think that's my vote. He's not going to win it, of course. So, I guess I kind of made my choice, and the prediction is Crosby. Because the NHL loves him. Maybe the MLS should take him. So we got another hockey topic, and then I think we're just gonna have to talk about soccer because just have soccer things rolling off the tongue here. NHL draft. Our mock draft is next episode. Please comment below any opinions on our award predictions. If you have any predictions, post them below. And also, maybe if there were any snubs, if you felt that somebody kind of got screwed that should have been up for nomination, put that below. And yeah, so we're going to talk about goalies now. And there may be one picked on Wednesday. There's no guarantee. This is a shallow goalie class. And so yeah, we're going to talk about goalies. Each of us are going to cover one because it's so shallow. Sean, I'll let you go first with your goalie.
Alright, let me get to the page. My goalie is Mason McDonald, and he had a farm. Alright, I'll shut up now. Statistics, not the greatest, I would think. In his actual team, Charlottetown Islanders, QMJHL team, his goals against average was a 3.35 with a save percentage of .907 in 16 games. To me, that's not great at all. And as Andy said, this is a shallow one, so there's not many great goalies. He is 18. I'll read what he's about. He's tall, lanky. What? Lanky, I guess that's what it says. And he covers most of the net. His size is great. He's quick. What? Hold on. Alright. He blocks more pucks than he should hold on to, so that's not a very good thing. Especially in the NHL, where most garbage goals come off of crappy rebounds from the goalie. And he went to the Canada, championship, I think is what it, for Canada U18. He had goals against 1.94 and a save average. I cannot talk. .93. Yeah, he's not great. So, just pointing that out there.
Maybe you should stay working on a farm.
What?
Maybe he should just stay working on his farm.
Yeah, probably. It'd probably work better.
Alright, Chris. You probably have a better choice for goalie.
I make this show interesting.
I hate him. No, my goalie's even worse. Uh, Sean was right when he said that you said, uh, well, anyway, yeah, this goalie draft sucks. I don't know how the top goalie prospect is, but like it goes the top guy who might be taken in the first round, and then it just boom drops. I know Sean's was like the third ranked guy, and his guy sucks. Mine's the fourth ranked, and he's even just as bad. Um, although you can find gems of goalies randomly throughout the rounds. Henrik Lundqvist was a seventh rounder. Um, Ryan Miller was a third or fourth or something. And the only goalie I remember in the past few years going in the first round was actually number 5 overall with Carey Price. And Carey Price is obviously a really great goalie, but um, my guy is named. Doesn't even give a first name. That's silly. Let's read it over here. Hold on. Okay, Brent Morin from he plays in the OHL. He's 6'3". He's 186 pounds for Niagara. Niagara something. Um, Pretty much the guy is high risk, high reward. Um, he loves to put himself in high pressure situations. He almost does it on purpose. He likes to come out of the net and challenge shooters. He really likes to take chances and challenge himself and push himself to his limits. Um, he likes playing in high pressure situations though. He finished this year with a losing record of 14, 19, and 4, with a goals allowed average of 3.85 and an 8.91 save percentage. You can see how good these goalies are. He's described to have a powerful leg drive, can push off the post and get out there to challenge shooters quickly, which is what he loves to do. He puts pressure on himself to succeed in big spots. And this person says if he matures, he'll become an even better goalkeeper. But he's way too aggressive, and he pretty much he's aggressive, but he did get better over the second half of the season. They said so. If he's maturing more and progressing, then you could see that this guy might actually be pretty good. Could be a fourth rounder, sneaky snake kind of dude.
Very shallow after ranking. Very shallow. It's like a kiddie pool in terms of goalies. Uh, Dylan, I know you have the goalie that is considered the best goalie in the draft. Talk, talk away, I guess.
All right, so I got on to the Hangout first, so I snagged Thatcher Demko. And he's number one, at least in North America rankings. He plays for Boston College currently. He's 6'4", 192 pounds, so he's got good size. He was the goalie for Boston College, and they went to the Frozen Four this year, and they ended up losing in the semifinals to Union College, who won it all, who ended up winning it all. He was the youngest player in NCAA hockey during this season, and he had a 16-5-3 record, 2.24 goals against, and 919 save percentage. So he did pretty well for the USA. He played for the USA under-18 team in 2012-2013, and he put up pretty good numbers between a 2 and 2.1 goals against and a save percentage right around 910. So he's put up good numbers. He's got good size. He won a silver medal at the under-18 World Championship with Team USA. And in 2012 in the under 17. He helped the U.S. win second, and he led the tournament with a 1.9 goals against and 949 save percentage. So he's done well. He's shown that he can continue to do well as he moves up in levels and has taken on more of a workload with his team. I quickly Googled a pro comparison when during the show, and I don't like to read them too much, but I like to look at them just to get an idea. And his pro comparison is a guy we've talked about quite a bit lately, but who doesn't have much pro experience in John Gibson, who we know as a very good prospect for the Anaheim Ducks. He's supposed to be a really good goalie, and he was a 39th overall pick in 2011. So maybe we see Thatcher Demko go late first or early second, and I don't know, maybe he'll end up being really good for whoever takes him once he develops into an NHL ready player.
The cream of the crop, Thatcher Demko. Um, Actually, my European goalie isn't that bad. So he sounds like he's clearly the second best goalie in the draft. He was snubbed in last year's draft and used that as motivation for this year. This year in the Finnish Elite League, he had a 1.99 goals against average and a 923 save percentage. So we talk about the SHL as a Swedish pro hockey league, and it has a lot of former NHLers in it. Well, Ville Husso had a sub 2 goals against average in a league of men in Finland, and that's impressive at 20 years old. He probably will be a mid-round pick, but I would if I was the Sabres, I'd pick this guy because he has the skill set to succeed at the highest level in which he can. Um, he won a gold medal at the World Juniors in 2014 with Rasmus Ristolainen, and in that tournament he was bad, but he won a gold medal, so it doesn't matter, I guess. Wow, he was bad. Sorry about that. Hockey Future. Let's see what they say. Um, he he is very scrutinized for his play because he has a problem with staying focused. He doesn't prepare well for the game. Like, you know how Ryan Miller used to kind of sit out there for like a half hour before the game and meditate? This guy doesn't do anything. He just kind of like, well, I'm just going to play. I don't really care if I like mentally ready to play. I'm worried about other things, and that's the question mark right now is his focus. Um, they say that there are concerns about his ability overall as a goalie, but he has a shot to get himself into the North America as a goalie with the even low level of abilities that people say he is allowing himself to play at. They believe that he can play at a lot higher level, but because of his mental approach to the game, he is not, taking the game seriously. They don't know how much upside there is to drafting him. In my opinion, you look at a guy who's sub 2 goals against average in 41 games. That's really good. And, if no one wants to risk it, I'll risk it. I don't care. Fourth round pick. Fourth round picks rarely make it anyway. I did stats on it one time, and like 10% of fourth round picks even play in the NHL. So what does it matter? You know. Um, Ville Husso. Ville Husso. So now I guess we'll have to talk about soccer.
God damn right we do. We have a bone to pick, mister.
I will say this before I begin. I watched a little bit of soccer today. Say it didn't look like there were banana peels on the field as often today as there were last time. The last time it looked littered with banana peels. I know they're in the jungle, and I know they like there are bananas in the jungle. There might be banana peels on the field. But, Jermaine Jones obviously wasn't sitting down this game, but last game he sat down more than he stood up. Um, I retweeted a couple tweets of high analysts in ESPN, and they're kind of like, "Oh yeah, this is why I don't like soccer." Oh, look at that penalty he's trying to draw. I know it's part of the game, but this is why I can't watch it. Exactly. That's why I can't watch it. Sean, you can say whatever you want.
All right. One, what kind of sports analysts were they? Football player or football, hockey? Answer that.
They're just random ESPN analysts. I follow a lot of ESPN analysts.
Well, according to that, I'm just gonna take a wild guess that they're gonna be football followers. Second, I don't know if you've ever ran in humidity 90 plus and heat and 80 plus, but that sucks so much. You get dehydrated like 10 times faster, so your legs cramp up and you're more injury prone, and you have people going full force, stepping on your feet, slide tackling your knees out, and headbutting you in midair. Shut up, Chris. I'm trying to make a point. You can have your turn, but you see football players stopping every 5 seconds. Oh, I need a water break. Hold on, let me run to the sideline. Oh, okay, I'm back. And then the play's ready. Soccer is full, no stoppage, except for half, and you just go. The average player runs 9 or 11.5 miles or something in one game, running 45 minutes nonstop, and then another 45 plus depending on stoppage time. You're telling me that if someone comes, slide tackles your legs out, steps on your feet, you're not going to go down? Let alone getting kicked in the face, because I know how you felt about that. Oh, he was only on the ground for 3 minutes. He had a broken nose and his blood is all over the friggin' ground. You should have seen the Germany game. At the end of the freaking game, someone got the shoulder to the face, and the blood was covering his face. Yes, there's floppers. They do that just to stop the game, to slow it down, and to obviously in the offensive zone they want to get that extra push. I don't know, but there's it's part of the game. I don't know. And then I know Chris wants to say something.
I don't watch soccer, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. I'm just going to say, he stepped in my toe.
Okay, hold on. Playing football, I used to wear spikes, and you would complain about my spikes stepping on your feet.
Because I was
every
wearing
time.
no shoes.
Yeah, that's pretty. Have you ever wore soccer cleats? They are so freaking thin that your toe can practically poke out if you like straighten it out. It's that friggin' thin, so they can run without any hassle.
Okay. That's better than no shoe at all.
Yeah, but they still need the grip running on turf, and
yeah, and I grabbed my foot for like 2 seconds, and I'm like, ow, that hurt. Let's get back to playing football and playing a man's sport.
After you start swearing for friggin' 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Why the hell are you wearing spikes, you idiot? No one else is wearing spikes.
Yeah.
like
about
Yeah.
that?
first.
Andy,
Wednesday was 5 minutes.
anything else?
I just want to say, in response to it's part of the game, that is exactly the problem.
It's part of the game in every other friggin' sport, though. You act like it doesn't happen.
It happens so often in soccer that somebody that doesn't watch soccer can watch soccer and call it out. Like, oh my God, look at all that flopping. It happens so often that
Look at hockey. Look at the playoffs.
when people watch hockey for the first time, they don't see players falling down all the freaking time.
What?
I
If
don't.
you would have watched the friggin' playoffs, you would have watched. Oh, I forgot who it was. Run into the back of the player and then practically do a backflip to
But,
try to
but,
get the call.
but I'm also going to say that player, I believe, is Rick Nash.
Yeah, it is.
That player is a pussy. And I'll say that he's a pussy and that he shouldn't be in hockey. So, with that same thought process, you would have to say that the soccer player that flopped is a pussy.
So are you saying Crosby is a pussy, so he shouldn't be in the NHL?
I said Crosby was a pussy already.
So he shouldn't be in the NHL.
I'm saying he's a girl in a man's sport.
Yeah, he said he shouldn't be in the NHL. He should be in the soccer leagues. He said that at least 3 times.
Yeah. So okay, Dylan, sorry.
Wanted to say something.
Well, I remember when I made my final word about soccer in one of the previous episodes. One of the things I said is my only complaint is the diving. It happens. It's people dive, they flop, they embellish. It happens. It's part of the game. They're not doing it. You're calling them all these names and everything, saying like, oh, they can't take a hit. They're not going down because they're actually in a ton of pain. They're trying to draw penalties. They're trying to draw cards, anything to help their team. They're not actually most of the time. Serious injuries do happen, like when Clint Dempsey got booted in the face and his nose was smashed. That was a serious injury. If you got kicked in the face, and your nose was gushing blood, you'd be on the ground. It happens. It's part of the game. NHL hockey, or I remember a specific instance. Brad Marchand, he got hit or something, and he like skated off holding the wrong leg. I remember specifically watching the video online. So it happens everywhere. Sometimes it's harder to spot in hockey. Most of the time, it's harder to spot in other sports, but it happens everywhere. I don't think that this is something that should make anybody hate or bash the sport of soccer. It's a great sport, most popular sport worldwide, but people can't get over the fact that a guy will sometimes take a dive. I'm not a huge fan of it either, but I accept that it's not something they're just going to completely get rid of.
Is
Thank
there
you, Dylan.
anything in place to stop diving?
Yeah, they give the penalties to the other team.
Is there really?
Yeah,
I felt like I had to ask that because I didn't see it. But
yeah.
I also want to say something about the 90-degree thing that you said. Today was the
Okay.
first day that they gave a water break. And that is nothing against soccer, except for why wait for the water break today when it's been hot every day all tournament long?
That I don't know. It could be because of the humidity. This has been the most humid game that I know of, at least. And running in that humidity, like I said, dehydrates you a lot faster. So, like the first game when we faced Ghana, it was like a 71 humidity. Today was an 88 or something like that, ridiculously high. So I think they just didn't want to take the chance of having any more injuries, like Altidore. I think that's how you. I'm probably saying his name wrong, but they just don't want that to happen. So, especially when precious Ronaldo's out there prancing around like the little fairy he is.
Oh, Ronaldo.
It's a sad day.
That thing I just put in the chat, it's in reply to Chris. So I think this soccer topic will be revisited probably next Sunday if you're on. Hopefully there's less of this flopping nonsense. And
I can maybe assure you. Well, I don't know. I don't want to say this, but I have a feeling once the competition gets a lot higher, like towards the end, there's going to be a lot less flopping, or there's going to be a lot more, depending on the teams and who they're facing. Like, I would think that they would do less flopping just to get into the position instead of flopping and having the other team get in position and not having that extra chance. So it can either go either way, but you can never know.
all right. By the way, the United States. Well, actually, that's something else. That's for Sean's final word. Actually, Sean, since we're on the soccer topic, and I know your final word, you can go first for final word.
Oh, all right. Group G is the group that the U.S. of A are in, and the other teams include, of course, Portugal, Germany, and Ghana. As of right now, any team in this group can make it within the next game. And I personally have never seen this happen. It probably happened, but I didn't really follow it that much. Um, it's hard to tell. For the U.S. to advance, we have to either tie or win against Germany. That's not an easy task. But then again, we did beat Ghana, and Ghana did tie Germany. It all depends on how healthy our players are and how pissed off the German team is. They can either be really down, or they could easily, very easily, get back and run us over like they did to Portugal. For me, I personally do not believe that we will win, especially against a heavily favored German team. They're always good. They always, I don't know, I don't know the word right now, but they're always in the elimination rounds. So it's gonna be last. I don't know. For me, I think it's going to be Portugal and Germany coming out of this group. So it's going to be really interesting. I forgot what day we play Germany, but it's going to be a really, really good game. I hope I get to watch it. So
Thursday.
Is it the 26th?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah. Oh, I'm going to be off. Sweet.
You have off
I'm so
Wednesday?
excited now.
No,
What's up?
You have off tonight?
I don't know what you said.
Do you have off
Yes, we all
Wednesday?
have off Wednesday night. I talked to Mark.
Oh.
Yes, we clutched it. All right, good.
It's a good thing I talked to him too, because he was going to put me on clothes. That was
And we can do it without you. It's okay.
No, we need him. We don't need.
yeah. that? Mettenberger, first round quarterback?
McDonald is going first overall.
By the way, mock draft once again Wednesday. That's my second plug, and I'll plug it again by the end. Dylan, I'll let you go before Chris. Your final word.
All right, so I was sort of scrambling to find a final word. I considered more soccer talk. I considered basketball, and that would have been a mistake. So, but ultimately, I landed on hockey. And coming up, today is June 22nd. The Hockey Hall of Fame Selection Committee is meeting tomorrow and Tuesday, and I believe they announce who the inductees on Tuesday. And among first-time candidates with their first time on the ballot are Dominic Hasek, Peter Forsberg, and Mike Modano. 3 players. Some people view them as being widely considered to be players that will get in and be first ballot Hall of Famers. And I know we've talked plenty about Dominic Hasek, because last season he was inducted into the Sabres Hall of Fame, and next year we're retiring his number. And personally, I think he's going to be first ballot. He has 6 Vezina trophies, only goaltender to win the Hart Trophy in consecutive seasons. He was on 2 Stanley Cup winning teams, one time as the starter, and then the next time he was back up to Chris Osgood. So I say he's one of the best goalies of all time. People will argue that, but I think he'll get in right away. Forsberg, another player. Obviously, he's been great. He won the Art Ross Trophy. He won the Calder Trophy in 1996 with 116 points in 82 games. He won 2 Stanley Cups with Colorado, and his career wasn't as long as that of most of the other players we know, because he did have some injuries, so he only played 708 career games, and he has a 1.25 point per game average, which is 8th all time, and he's 5th all time with 0.9 assists per game, so he's pretty high on both of those lists, and I expect him to get in as well. And the next, Mike Modano, 561 goals, 1,374 points, most in the NHL by a player born in the United States, 23rd among all players. And he had a 50-goal season in 93-94, which was his best year. And he was the face of the Dallas Stars, Minnesota North Stars for a very long time. He did play a little bit with the Red Wings. And he's arguably the greatest United States-born player to ever play the game. I know, although at his current pace, I believe Pat Kane's en route to surpass him, but that's a different story for another day. But I think Forsberg and Hasek are for sure first ballot Hall of Famers, definitely going to get in, and I think there's a very strong chance Modano gets in. Should be interesting to see. I know there are other good players on the ballot for the first time, such as Mark Recchi, Doug Weight, Owen Nolan, Chris Osgood, and players from previous years still under consideration, Eric Lindros, Tom Barrasso. So there are a lot of good players who are eligible to get in, and I think there's a very, very strong possibility that those 3 get in first time around this year. And we'll find out within a couple days, it seems. And that's my final word.
The Sabre might make it in the Hall of Fame. Woohoo! Right before the draft where we get Sam Reinhart. What a great week for Sabres hockey. Chris, what is your final word?
Personally, first of all, I want to thank you, Andy, for your article. Um, my final word is on Aaron Hernandez. I think I talked about him before. I like to talk about how shitty football players can be off the field, as well as other sports players, and how they just seem that they think they're untouchable. This time we're going to talk about Aaron Hernandez had a recent hospital visit. This came right a short while after he requested a transfer to a different jail because he felt as though his personal safety was in jeopardy. He didn't feel safe in that jail after allegedly threatening a prison guard and his family, and having an altercation with another prisoner. Um, you know, hmm, I don't know. He pleaded not guilty, but I mean, come on. I feel like those people that he most likely probably killed didn't feel very safe too. So I don't give a shit if you feel safe or not. You can rot. Um, I'm sorry, that was rude. Innocent until proven guilty. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, they couldn't disclose. He didn't say what the injury was, and no one can disclose it. So we won't know unless he tells someone. So could have gotten stabbed or something. He was only there for an hour, so I doubt it was a stabbing. Probably broke his nose or something.
Oh, who knows? Maybe he got butt raped in jail because that's what happens in jail, and he's kind of embarrassed. Big tough football player got made a bitch in jail. You know, maybe you shouldn't have killed those people. That's what you get. So yeah. My final word is NASCAR related, as always. This week was a great weekend because they raced at road courses, which have many turns. Today, Sonoma, the Cup race, 11 turns. Uh, Dylan gave me Dale Jr.'s tweet, I believe. Dale Jr. is a great, wow, I would say great, a great person to follow on Twitter. He he tweets constantly, but he also does a lot of Q&As, so you learn a lot about him as a person. And interesting. He finished third place, by the way, today. His first top 10 finish ever at Sonoma, and he's raced there 15 years. Um, Johnson finished fourth. I got pretty scared there. I finished fifth. I was pretty scared because, as you know, I don't like Jimmy Johnson, and he was coming there at the end, and I was like, oh no, not not this Jimmy Johnson nonsense. But the winner was Carl Edwards, a Roush driver, one of my favorite drivers. He is probably leaving Roush Racing. There's a rumor that he's going to go to Joe Gibbs Racing next year. Um, Never won at a road course, but pit strategy got him out there. Road courses, pit strategy plays into effect almost as much as just driving on the track does. Because some guys could pit 3 times and some guys chose to pit twice. And people would ask, oh, why would you pit 3 times instead of 2 times? And it's because fresh tires were so much faster than old tires that they had drove on for 30 laps that you would go 4 to 5 seconds faster a lap, which is a big deal because 4 or 5 seconds a lap, that's like 3 or 4 cars a lap. So right off the start, these guys are passing all these cars. But Carl Edwards got a big enough lead that when those guys were getting to him, the race was over. So Carl Edwards won the race. But what I was more intrigued by was the race yesterday, the nationwide race, the AAA race. Road America, a 4-mile track. They only race 50 laps, 4 miles long. They race here once a year. Only nationwide races there. A lot of drivers that don't normally race there. Road ringers. And a road ringer was leading with 2 laps left trying to save fuel. Alex Tagliani. And he's driving a car that won every road course race last year. So this car is good. Obviously, he's leading the race. This car is very good. Well, he ran out of gas. The caution came out, and he ran out of gas under caution. Didn't make it back to pit road. He had to pit, obviously, and started last place in the lead lap cars, which was 23rd with 2 laps left. He came one straightaway away because he was going so much faster on his new tires from winning the race, passing 22 cars to finish second place. Like it was just incredible. Like all of a sudden at the end of the race, they're like, "Oh, Chase Elliott's passed by Brendan Gaughan, and Alex Tagliani is in 3rd place." It's like he was just 23rd place. On Twitter, they were trying to have ESPN post a 2-lap in-car camera of Tagliani's last 2 laps and how he passed all these guys. But Brendan Gaughan won the race. It was his first win in his career in nationwide, so give the credit to him. But it was a really interesting race. Road course racing, not boring. So that's my final word. NASCAR. So that's pretty much the episode. Next episode is a big one. One of our big shows of the year, in my opinion. And we're going to do the NHL mock draft, round 1 only. We all have our teams, and should be fun. 8 o'clock Wednesday. Be there, and maybe we'll get some more right than we did last time. I believe the NFL mock draft we were 3 for 32. First pick was Zach Mettenberger, and so that's the thing. Please comment below if you have any opinion on anything that we talked about, and like, comment, favorite, subscribe. Our views are going up. This month will be better than last month. Our views continue to go up. Thank you. We really appreciate you guys watching. So, yeah, that was the Golden Sports Report episode 73. Bye.
Peace out.
Adios.